Hello, in today's video we will discuss about process control. Under this we are discussing the sub-contents are introduction, 4 KPI, V4 KPI, exit functions, await functions, race conditions, then finally exit functions. So first we need to understand what do you mean by process identifiers. Every process has a unique ID. That ID what I can call as a process ID, or also we can also call as a process identifier. I hope you got the point. You in the university database you will be identified as you are based on your USN number. Just like that, every process is identified by a one unique ID. That ID what we can call as a process ID, or also we can call as a process identifiers. It is a non-negative integer. Some of the special processes exist in the Unix system. One is scheduler process, second one is init process, and third one is page domain process. The one observation you need to make here, the scheduler or swapper process is having the ID is 0, and init process is having the ID is 1, and page domain process is having the ID is 2. Maybe you are getting the one question, then what is the use of these processes? The first one, swapper, that is playing an important role for scheduling the process execution. Its ID is 0, and this ID is assigned by the kernel itself. Next process 1, that is the init process, its ID is 1, that it never dies. It is always parent for the process whose parent is no more. And one more important role playing by the init process is that it will allocate the resources for every process. And one more process, that is a page domain process, it is doing the page replacement. I think you might be studied in operating system. Next, some of the functions we are using for handling the process. One is get PID, so it will return the process ID of the calling process. That means, say for example, if it calls a process A is called get PID, that means we are returning the PID of the process A. Similarly, if I call the get PPID, then we are returning the parent process ID of that calling process. Then get UID, we are returning the real user ID of the calling process. Get UID, that is nothing but effective user ID. If I call that one, then we are returning the effective user ID of the calling process. Then get GID, then we are getting the group ID, that is real group ID of the calling process. Then get EGID, that is nothing but effective group ID of the calling process. So this way we can use these functions for handling the processes. Next, 4 KPI. One thing we need to understand in the Unix operating system, whenever we want to create a new child process, we are supposed to use the one API. That API name is 4 KPI here. And it prototype, just we can go through in the slide, it could not containing anything. I mean empty arguments, only it is having the return values of type PID. Okay, so it is returning the two values, 0 in child and PID of the child to the parent. That means next I written that point, just we can find it. Why it is returning the 0? Because a parent process can have multiple child ID. To identify uniquely for every child ID, we are getting the child ID to the parent. And 0 in child indicate that the parent is successfully created the child process. That we need to understand. And one more point, it is returning the 1 on error. It is two conditions are there. We will discuss shortly in what circumstances we are getting the error with respect to the 4 KPI here. The next point, the new process created by the fork is called child process. The function called once but returned the twice. Already I highlighted the point. The only difference in returns is that the return value is in the child is 0, whereas the return value in the parent is new child PID. The reason for child PID is returned to parent is that the process can have more than one child ID. Already I cleared that point. no function that allows a process to obtain the PID of its child process. Means there is no specific functions to get the PID of the child process. Only the parent can directly retrieve it. Then another reason 0 is returning to the child is indicating that it is successful creation of the child process. Okay. Both child and parent continue executing with the instruction that follows and call to fork. The child is copy of the parent. One thing we need to understand, every child is a copy of the parent process. For example, the child gets a copy of the parent data space, heap and stack, and the one common segment it is shared between parent and child is that is a text segment. This is the one simple example has been taken for to understand the fork. We call the fork, then we have one simple printf statement, hello USB. Then if I run this program, then we are getting the hello USB twice. The simple, because it is executed by both child and parent. Okay, so that is the reason we got the two outputs. If I include this statement above, that is printf hello USB, it will be executed once by the parent. Okay. So one more example we need to understand with respect to the fork API. Just we can go through the declaration part. We are having the one variable globe, value is 6, then further a write to standard output. Then there is some more variable like where, okay, then PID, then where is equal to 88, again we are having the one more values. Then we are writing the standard output, a buffer. What is a buffer? It is having a write to standard out. Okay, if that is gets failure, I mean this API is get failure, write API, then this statement is executed. Printf before the fork, before calling this one, we are executed this one, and this output is we also get it. That is the before fork. When I call the fork API, if it is getting the -1, that indicate the failure of the fork API. Yes. Then otherwise it is returning the 0 or 1. If it is getting the 0 means the PID is 0, then we are allowing child to execute in this context. We don't know exactly whether the child is executing first or parent is executing the first. It depends on the scheduling algorithm run by the kernel here. If assume that its child is executing, then these values will be incremented, globe and as well as variable. Then we are allowing parent to sleep for the 2 seconds, then we are printing the value PID of percentage. What is that PID? Get PID, current child process. Next globe value, then variable value. So we'll see that what is the output we are getting. So this write to standard out before 4, parent is the child IDs, PID value is 430, global that is already 6, it is 6 becomes 7. Variable value 88, it has become 89. But you observe the things with respect to the parent. Parent's PID value is 429 because anyhow parent is before the child is created. Then globe value, what is that? Original value 6 because the parent does not increment anything here. 88. If I redirected the output to temp out, then we are getting this way output before the 4th. If I run the once again, then this value is executed here. Okay. So one thing what we need to understand is that the child is executing independently and parent is executing independently. Usually the parent is allowing the child to execute first, then parent can continue its execution part. Then file sharing concept. What do you mean by file sharing? Fork creates the duplicate copy of the file descriptor opened by the parent. That means whatever the files opened by the parent process, the same files is also inherited to the child process. The same thing is available with respect to the child process. There are two ways for handling the descriptors of after the fork. The parent waits the child to complete, means the parent process always waiting for the child to complete its task, then it can continue its normal execution. Or else the one more statement after fork, the parent closes all descriptor that it does not need and does the same thing. Means it will terminate itself and allowing the explicit child to execute here. The anything one can happen here. Besides open files, the other properties inherited by the child are, means what are the properties of the parent will be inherited to child process are a real user ID, group ID, effective user ID, effective group ID, next supplementary group ID, process group ID, session ID, controlling terminal, set user ID, get group ID, current working directory, root directory, file mode creation mask, signal mask, and dispositions, close and exit flag. So these are the properties will be inherited from parent to child. Along with this, we can also inherit in the environment of the parent process, attach shared memory segments like data segment, text segment, okay, heap segment. Then some of the resource limits of the parent to child will be inherited. Then what is the difference between parent and child is that the return value of the fork. As we know that child is always getting the 0 value, whereas the parent is getting the PID of the child is getting by the parent. Then the process ID here. Obviously the child PID is differ with respect to the parent process ID. Then parent process ID means the child parent ID is differ with respect to parent PID is differ. I'll take the one example. Assume that A is the one process, it is creating the child process is B. Now B is the child process, its parent is A obviously. But who is the parent of A? Then it is some more other process, that is, say, assume that in this case yes here. Okay. Then the values of change time, modification time, last read time. So these are the values that also differ from parent to childs. And next, file lock used by the parent is not inherited by the child. Pending alarms, as we are using the clock times, so if any clock times are there with respect to the parent process, will not be inherited to the child. Even though it is inherited, then it is set to 0 values. The set of pending signals for the child is set to empty set, means any signals are currently with respect to the parent process, it is not inheriting to the child process here. The functions of the fork API is that a process can create duplicate itself so that the parent and child can execute the different sections of the code. That means there is a assume that there is a large program we are executing in C language, but we wanted to execute one part by one process and another part by another process. In that case, we are creating the multiple child process, means the childs are executing different sections of that program and parent is executing one section of the code. That is a one use of the fork API. A process can execute a different program. That means if suppose the parent is executing the one program, then the parent want to execute some other program, but in that condition what it can do it is that it will create the one child process and allowing that child to execute the new program here. Okay, so this is an two uses of the fork API. Then two main reasons the fork API get failure. If too many processes are already in the system, which usually means that something else is wrong. That means the system limit itself is, say for example, it can execute at a time 100 processes. Assume that already the 100 processes are running in the system, but we try to execute some more process. In that case, obviously the fork API gets failure. That is one possibility. The another possibility is that if the total number of the processes for this real user ID exceed the system limit, usually this is already I highlighted in resource limit. Okay, one process can execute create the child processes maximum is 16, say for example. Currently the one more child process if you wanted to create, so in that case it is not allowing to create the new child process. So obviously the fork API gets failure. Okay, we'll discuss some more concept in the next video.